Children's Literature and Games by Gloria S. Vasquez, which is me. Evolution. Each year, big technology companies like Apple or Samsung announce their brand new phone or any brand new technology that they had been working on throughout the year. As years go on, technology is rapidly advancing. This allows for everything, including literature for children, to have big technology developments. In a journal article titled "Children's Literature, Past and Present: Is There a Future?" talks about how children's literature has evolved since the 1900s to present day. Known genres were expanded and seeds for new genres were planted. Helped by increasingly advanced printing technology, the picture book genre blossomed. This quote talks about how technology helped begin how printing pretty much began to help children's literature, because before having a printer, kids were just having to read off of books, or maybe the printing process wasn't as fast as they would like. So with the printer, they were able to finally see drawings of what they were reading about, which helped them visualize a lot easier what they were reading about. But let's take a step back. What is children's literature? In a short introduction in the textbook, a short introduction, the definition of children's literature is the materials written to be read by children and young people, published by children's publishers, and stocked and shelved in the children's or young adult section of libraries and bookshops. To sum it up, children's literature is a story made for children so that they are able to learn things like morals or lessons. Children's literature is mainly about teaching valuable lessons, or teaching kids a valuable lesson, teaching kids a valuable lesson. Does that mean that games can also be seen as a form of children's literature? The answer is yes. Gaming. Nowadays, it is very common for kids to play games on their parents' phone or even on tablets. Many might think that the games that they play are useless and rob the kid's brain, but by taking a closer look at the game that they are playing, you might see that it is their new way of literature. We're going to be talking about a couple games, and the first game we're going to talk about is called Little Nightmares. Little Nightmares is a horror game that takes place in a ship where a little girl named Six is trapped. In this game, you go through obstacles and fight off interesting monsters who are trying to capture you. At some point of the game, Six helps other kids that are trapped on the ship, and they help her too. All this information I got from the YouTuber IGN, and he does reviews on games. So he plays games and then he makes kind of like a summary of what the game is like and the storyline, and then he talks about how he feels about the game. I'm also going to be using him for another game that I'm going to be talking about in this presentation. This game teaches you how to problem solve in situations that can have you on the edge of your seat. So Little Nightmares pretty much it's just like a fantasy game, and I believe it's very, very creative, and the obstacles that you have to go through make you think a lot. So for this to be a children's game, it's very I feel like it could make a children's mind develop very, very well when it comes to problem solving. Children's literature is used to teach children to learn about new things so they can develop by using games. Games like Little Nightmares can create a more creative imagination, which can help them to create ideas that are outside of the box. The next game that we're going to talk about is called It Takes Two. In a very popular two-player game called It Takes Two, follows the story of a couple that is getting divorced. In the beginning of the game, the kid of the couple wishes her parents could stay together while holding two dolls and while reading a book called About Love. The parents magically become the dolls and have to work together and establish their love again so they are able to get back together and get back to their daughter. Again, this information I got it from IGN, the YouTuber. Um, uh, this this game I feel like teaches children how to be very teamwork. It teaches them how to do teamwork and teaches them that even though if like this couple, even though you can get mad at somebody or your sibling or whoever you're playing this with, at the end of the day, um, you guys have to help each other, and they come to the final and they get through the game together, which I'm assuming makes them feel very, very good inside. And I feel like this is what the moral of the game that is trying to teach. Yep. Education. It takes It Takes Two shows children how teamwork is used within a game, which can translate into real life, making the child an adult that can be relied on. One of the functions of literature has always been to prepare its readers to become the next generation of adults by introducing ideas about how the society around them is organized, how the society fits into national and global perspectives, and how it functions in the future. This quote, I got it from A Short Introduction, the textbook, and it pretty much talks about how kids, anything that kids see, anything that kids read, anything that kids just in general, you know, just see, or they grasp and they learn from it, whether it be good or bad as they grow up. So if they have games like It Takes Two, mostly, for example, it shows them teamwork and it shows them how to work with other people and they can apply that into real life. And yeah, it makes them reliable adults. Part of growing up is being able to know right from wrong and being able to adapt to to, cha- to changes that arise, challenges that arise. It follows that you can teach anything, you can adapt them to anything of you use the right teachings or socials or communications. This quote, I got it from Growing Up Up, Observed, Absurd, and it talks about how children, um, are not taken very seriously, and the effects that it has on the children, especially during the teens. Um, Games have been around for thousands of years and always have rules. And the Jordan article called Children's Games and Gaming talks about how old children's games help a child develop social manners by translating rules from simple games into real life. The player I observed responded very differently to the same move in different contexts of performance, and they recognized important differences between what you could do under the game's rules and what you were supposed to do as a social component member of a playing group. Their actions in the game had clear social consequences outside its boundaries, and this strongly shaped the meaning of actions under the rules. This article was a research article about how they took various different games and it, it pretty much showed them how children react to them and how they act after the game and to everyone else around them. So, games are still games, even with technology. Modern games are teaching children life lessons like in It Takes Two. So, for instance, like the older games that the article talks about, um, it's the games that kids nowadays play have the same effect as they did when as the older games. Mm, I might say that they have a bigger effect now because if you see if kids play violent games, you can see that they tend to have a more violent outlook. But if they play games like It Takes Two, which build teamwork and build, or like in Little Nightmares, it builds more of a creativity. It helps the children develop more. Some might not believe it, but modern children have different ways of literature, not just by playing games. Today, many children encounter stories through a variety of media and performances, and children's literature studies is interested in all of them as well as they interact. This, this, this quote, I got it from the textbook, A Short Introduction, and it talks about how, this quote specifically talks about how literature can be seen in many, many different ways, as in dance, art, or photography. One can say that literature is a form of art. And so, with saying that it is a form of art, it is included within the arts. So, um, drawing and dancing. And based off of other cultures, you can see that dancing can tell a story. Or if you're illustrating something, you can easily tell a story without speaking or anything. And with photography, you're easily able to come up with like an idea of why they took the picture, or you can say a million things about the picture. It's just all is in one big, you know, category. Literature is everywhere, even in games. Overall, I believe that children's literature does is present in games, no matter what game. Each game has a story or a storyline and a goal or a moral that that the player has to learn throughout the game. And I believe that by going through the obstacles like in Little Nightmares, children learn how to not think in one certain way, but try to find multiple different solutions to get to their goal, which I believe books really cannot do. But that being said, it's just I feel like games are just a little bit more advanced form of children's literature. These are my citations, and thank you so much for listening to my presentation.